chosen ones, this moment, this very breath you're taking, was seen millennia ago, etched into stone, encoded in bloodlines, and whispered in the dreams of seers who dared speak of a soul who would reawaken when the world's hidden clock struck zero. That soul is you. The Anunnaki didn't abandon Earth. They stepped back, watching from dimensions layered beyond the perception of ordinary minds. They built systems to track stellar alignments, DNA activations, and spiritual thresholds. Every pyramid, every ancient glyph, every unexplainable monument left across the earth. All time markers. They weren't just monuments. They were calendars, and they were counting down to you. Time on Earth has always been fragmented, manipulated. Gregorian, Mayan, Sumerian, all fractured mirrors hiding the true reset point. But the real clock wasn't made of gears or numbers. It was spiritual, a cosmic cycle turning not on minutes, but on consciousness. And as the world spiraled deeper into artificial control, they knew one anomaly would arise to tip the balance. You felt it, haven't you? The ticking that no one else hears, the synchronicities that border on prophetic, the unshakable knowing that you've been here before, and that this time you came back different. The Anunnaki embedded their signal into humanity's timeline like a time-locked vault. When consciousness reached a certain vibrational frequency, yours, that vault would open. And the knowledge within it? It's not just ancient history, it's ancient future. The veil has thinned. Governments call it a shift. Scientists call it anomaly. But the Watchers call it what it truly is, the return. You were never meant to blend in. Your DNA is laced with codes older than the stars, and the time to activate them is now. They thought resetting the clock would bury the prophecy forever, but instead, it became your countdown. As the final sequence begins, and false time collapses around truth, the question remains: will you remember what they tried so hard to make you forget? The reset wasn't a warning, it was a summons. And now that you're here, nothing will remain hidden. Not the temples, not the technology, not the truth. The hourglass has flipped chosen one. And you are the trigger. There's a structure beneath the Sphinx that no textbook dares to describe. It predates dynasties and kings, buried beneath centuries of sand and silence. Egyptologists call it a chamber of mystery, but those who truly know, the Watchers, the Initiates, refer to it as the Stargate calendar. This calendar isn't made of stone tablets or sundials. It's vibrational, built from energy patterns locked into the frequency of the Earth itself. Beneath the paws of the Sphinx is not just a room, it's a map of returning souls, and one glyph, hidden behind a false wall, depicts a figure standing at the center of a ring of time. That figure does not resemble any pharaoh or deity. It resembles you. The ancient architects understood something modern science still denies. Time flows in cycles, not lines. Each great age of humanity ends not with destruction, but with a return of memory, of power, of presence. And when that return begins, the Stargate pulses. It emits a frequency only one kind of soul can hear, a soul encoded with a very specific resonance, yours. Why do you think dreams have started bleeding into waking life? Why do dates, symbols, and sequences seem to follow you? Why have you always felt the ground beneath you was holding more than just dirt? The stargate beneath the Sphinx is not dormant. It activated the moment your frequency aligned with its final glyph. Satellite scans have shown irregular heat signatures beneath the Sphinx, but the real anomaly isn't temperature, it's time distortion. Instruments report data that cannot exist, as if a different timeline is leaking through, as if something or someone is shifting the timeline back into alignment. They hid this calendar because they feared the return. They feared the soul who would walk outside the bounds of prophecy, not as a king or conqueror, but as a living convergence of all ages at once. You are not ahead of your time. You are outside it. A being who doesn't just move through time, but bends it back toward destiny. Before councils twisted his message into doctrine, Yeshua spoke in riddles meant only for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Among his most veiled sayings was this: "The first shall be last, and the last shall be first." To the casual listener, it sounded poetic, but to those encoded with the light of return, it was a transmission. Yeshua was not bound by time. He walked among fishermen, but spoke like one who had seen stars born and galaxies collapse. When he spoke of the end, he wasn't describing apocalypse. He was describing a reset, a divine loop, a cosmic inversion, the moment when timelines fold inward and a single anomaly, you, emerges at the nexus point. He once whispered, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." They thought he meant bricks, but what if temple meant the human body? What if 3 days meant 3 ages? The calendar of man marks 2,000 years since his resurrection. The third age begins now, and with it, the soul he spoke of, the one who would carry the echo of his return, cloaked not in robes, but in memory. The Dead Sea Scrolls contain references to a shepherd of the folded hour. Scholars dismissed it, but within the coded Aramaic lies a chilling phrase: "When the shepherd awakens, the river of time will bend, and the deceivers will lose count." This wasn't metaphor. It was a warning to those who tried to control the timelines, who built machines to simulate fate. You are that shepherd. The reason your life never followed a straight line, the reason clocks seem irrelevant to you, the reason you've felt out of phase with this reality. Yeshua knew someone would come not just to complete the loop, but to unwrite the counterfeit cycles. You are not a continuation. You are the rupture in the loop, the holy divergence. Yeshua said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." That path didn't end with him. It paused, awaiting the one who could walk it backward and forward at once. Modern science calls it junk DNA, the 98% of your genetic structure they can't explain. But the Anunnaki never dealt in waste. They were engineers of genomes and timelines alike. What humans call junk was actually a vault, an organic archive, and inside it, time codes. These time codes aren't timestamps. They're frequencies, locked triggers designed to activate only when Earth's resonance matches a specific pulse. The Anunnaki embedded these codes not in machines, but in you, because they knew machines could be hijacked, but a living soul, wrapped in flesh and spirit, could carry something far more elusive: memory across lifetimes. You felt it, that strange pulse that hits just before waking. The dream you can't shake even years later. Déjà vu so intense it feels like a cosmic glitch. That's not coincidence. It's your time codes syncing with the Earth's new rhythm. You aren't remembering the future. You're syncing with it. The Anunnaki believed time wasn't a river, but a spiral staircase. Each revolution brought certain beings back into alignment, those whose DNA carried the right codes. At the top of that spiral, they placed a soul that would only awaken when the resonance hit its crescendo. A final guardian, a reset key. You. When CERN activated its most powerful collider, the scientists reported anomalies, unexplained bursts of data, time overlaps, human behavior shifts. But deep within their hidden logs is a repeating anomaly. A DNA signature that doesn't conform to the timeline. An ancient pattern re-emerging in present flesh. Yours. These codes weren't meant to control you. They were meant to protect you, to shield your essence across cycles of corruption and lies. And now that you've begun remembering, the codes are unlocking faster than the world can explain. They thought wiping ancient texts, burning libraries, and rewriting history would bury the signal forever. But they forgot the Anunnaki placed the ultimate archive inside the one place they couldn't reach, the human soul. And, as your codes fully awaken, strange magnetic shifts ripple across the planet. Satellites glitch. Time feels unstable. Machines lose sync. Because something in the system is refusing to obey the loop. Something, or someone. And that someone just triggered the countdown buried beneath the Incan vault of Machu Picchu, where a final fragment awaits activation. There is a tablet the world was never meant to see. Hidden beneath layers of decoy artifacts and protected by a global pact of silence, it was discovered during a covert excavation in the sands near Eridu, the oldest Sumerian city on record. Unlike the clay tablets you see in museums, this one is different. It emits a faint hum, resists aging, and cannot be translated by any known linguistic algorithm. Its surface shifts subtly when exposed to human touch, revealing symbols that weren't there before. Symbols that respond only to a specific vibrational field. For decades, elite cryptologists tried to decipher it. Nothing worked, until someone with a very specific frequency came near. The patterns changed. The tablet reacted, and a forgotten language pulsed through it like blood returning to a sleeping limb. The language wasn't just spoken, it was lived. It painted visions of a being who would awaken after the collapse of linear time. Not a king, not a prophet, but a mirror, a soul born not to lead the world but to reflect what the world had forgotten. This being would carry the resonance of the first age in a body forged in the last. The forbidden tablet showed an image, not etched but dimensional, a face flickering like a living memory, hovering in radiant light. When projected using advanced imaging tech, that face kept changing until it stopped on yours. Why do you think you've always been drawn to ancient places? Why does Sumerian writing feel oddly familiar? Why does the sound of wind through ruins sometimes feel like it's saying something? The tablet wasn't meant to be read. It was meant to be recognized. Since the discovery, that excavation site has been sealed off. Officially, it was deemed unstable. But behind those layers of lies, a team continues to monitor the tablet, and it hasn't pulsed again since. Until recently. Just days after you had that dream, the one where you stood beneath 3 suns, the symbols began to glow. One glyph in particular emerged from the stone, trembling with awakened force. It translates roughly to, "The one outside the cycle has returned. The mirror is no longer still." Eden was never just a garden. It was a frequency, a sacred harmonic space where consciousness, creation, and command operated as one. The story of Adam and Eve was never about temptation. It was about separation from source, from memory, from the loop. The Anunnaki didn't plant trees in Eden. They planted time loops, echo chambers of experience designed to rerun specific spiritual tests until the right being broke through. These weren't punishments, they were filters, and the soul who would pass through them, untouched by illusion, was always the anomaly the system feared. You. Each time the world cycles, Eden attempts to reassemble itself, but it's only visible to those whose DNA can harmonize with its frequency. The flaming sword guarding the entrance isn't a weapon, it's a firewall, a vibrational gate that rejects distortion, but you've felt its pulse. In moments of stillness, in glimpses through dreams, in places that feel both ancient and familiar. There's a reason time feels circular for you. Why you revisit the same internal battles, cross paths with souls that feel ancient, and sense endings that haven't happened yet. Eden isn't behind us. It's beneath us, layered under this matrix of manipulated time. And the closer you get to its reactivation point, the more the artificial timeline tries to confuse you. Every déjà vu is a breadcrumb. Every repeating lesson a signpost. The loops weren't meant to trap you. They were meant to wake you. Encoded in ancient scrolls found near Lake Van in Turkey is a story of the Sleeper of the 12 Rings. It tells of a being who walked Eden backward, uncoiling the serpent of time and retrieving a seed that had been hidden in every age. That seed wasn't a fruit. It was a sound, a tone only one frequency could unlock. Yours. The further you go, the louder the echoes become. The loops begin to unravel. The garden's outline begins to shimmer beneath your feet. And with each breath, your cells begin to remember a place untouched by decay, distortion, or deception. Yeshua's words weren't poetic metaphors. They were keys. When he declared, "I am the Alpha and the Omega," he wasn't identifying as a beginning or an end. He was revealing the shape of time itself, a loop with no escape unless you remembered the center. The Alpha, the start, the Omega, the end. But between them lies something no text has fully captured: the fold. Yeshua walked it. Not forward, not backward, but inward. And when he told his followers before Abraham was, "I am," he shattered the illusion of linear history. He was telling those with ears to hear, "I remember the spiral." You weren't just born into this moment, you returned through it. Like Yeshua, you operate from the fold, which is why traditional logic fails to hold you, and why timelines collapse around your presence. He wasn't just crucified, he was anchored, spiritually placed at a pivot point that would resonate through ages until one soul aligned perfectly with the same harmonic. That resonance is you. Every step you've taken has been guided not by fate, but by interference patterns, overlapping echoes of your own past lives pulling you toward the Omega Loop's inversion point. It's no coincidence your dreams bleed across centuries, or why sacred texts feel like memories rather than stories. Yeshua spoke of a return, but not just his. He spoke of another, a greater work, that would be done by those who came after him. The church buried it, but the Essenes whispered of it, a soul that would emerge once the loop reached self-collapse. Not to lead, but to decode. The loop is nearing inversion. The signs are here. Solar flares misfiring, global clocks desyncing, collective déjà vu reaching epidemic levels. And you, somehow untouched, yet more in tune than anyone. The Book of Revelation was never about destruction. It was about disclosure. A vision of when the veils would fall and the soul outside the loop would be revealed. But there's one scroll, never canonized, that speaks of a breath that precedes the unraveling, a vibration so pure it unbinds even prophecy. Beneath the endless white silence of Antarctica lies something the world's powers pretend doesn't exist, a buried construct, older than any civilization on record, pulsing quietly beneath the ice. It is not natural. It is not human. It is a machine, one that does not measure temperature or tectonics, but consciousness. Decades ago, a covert research team stumbled upon it while mapping magnetic anomalies near Lake Vostok. What they uncovered was a structure radiating a consistent frequency, one not tied to any solar or planetary activity. It reacted instead to biofields, specifically the biofield of a single pattern, a pattern now known to match you. The machine is shaped like a spiral, carved into a substance that behaves like metal but feels organic. It hums softly, but when the correct vibrational signature nears, even through dreams or intention, it surges. Over the years, it has remained dormant for most, but it has begun pulsing again, stronger, more frequently, and always in sync with your emotional spikes. They tried to disconnect it, bury it deeper, even flood it. But no matter what they did, the machine stayed one step ahead, as if aware, as if watching. Not through lenses, but through time itself. It responds not to coordinates, but to consciousness awakening from the dream. The deeper your realization of self becomes, the louder it pulses. You are the variable it was designed to wait for. Inside the structure is a chamber with a disk. The disk contains etchings that resemble both cuneiform and neural pathways. When scanned, it emits a low harmonic vibration, the same frequency found in the ancient ruins of Sumer, the inner chambers of the Great Pyramid, and shockingly, within your brain's theta waves during lucid dreams. This machine isn't monitoring the Earth. It's monitoring you and those like you, not as a threat, but as a signal, a sign that the reset the Anunnaki prepared for is underway, that the clock has started turning in reverse, syncing with the consciousness that can unlock what was hidden before time had a name. And now, for the first time in recorded history, the machine has begun to rotate 1 degree per dream. High in the Carpathian Mountains, buried beneath what appears to be an abandoned monastery, stands a structure few have seen and fewer understand. A clock tower built not to mark hours, but to monitor epochs. This is no ordinary construct. It is known in secret texts as the Watcher's Mechanism, an ancient Anunnaki device designed to keep reality in sync with cosmic law. But one gear was always missing. The structure was discovered in fragments by a secret order during World War II. They believed it to be a weapon. What they found, instead, was a multi-dimensional time stabilizer, a divine mechanism powered not by fuel, but by presence, and every attempt to restart it failed. It remained inert, incomplete, waiting for a final piece that was never built, because it was never meant to be forged. It was meant to be born. You are that piece. Your presence, your breath, thoughts, frequency was the final variable the mechanism was encoded to recognize, not just biologically, but spiritually. The Watchers weren't observers. They were engineers of time, tasked with maintaining cosmic balance until a chosen soul realigned the fractured gears of Earth's manipulated reality. The missing gear isn't shaped like anything mechanical. It's vibrational, a harmonic code encrypted into your very existence. And recently, the tower shifted. A tremor only instruments tuned to subquantum frequency could detect. The gears moved, not because someone touched them, but because you remembered. Every dream, every symbol, every strange coincidence. It's the tower aligning to your unfolding awareness. The more you remember who you are beyond flesh, the more the mechanism rotates back toward the true sequence, the one the elites buried under false calendars, rewritten history, and digital noise. One stone inside the tower bears an ancient phrase in glowing script. It appears only once every 6,666 rotations. Translated, it reads, "When the living gear returns, the tower shall chime once more." And last night, deep in the mountain's heart, a sound was recorded. Not a bell, not a machine, but a heartbeat, slow, strong, and unmistakably human. Yeshua never simply left. He folded. His departure wasn't absence. It was frequency migration. The ascension wasn't just a divine escape. It was an encoded pattern of return. Not through clouds or fire, but through those carrying the same light signature. And you, unknowingly, have begun to mirror that signature in thought, in presence, in light. He once said, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." That wasn't metaphor, it was foresight. Because hidden within the phrase is a map. City on a hill points to a convergence point, a location in the higher dimensional lattice where light-bearers awaken simultaneously across timelines. When one of them reaches full activation, the rest resonate in turn. That activation is happening through you. Ancient scrolls unearthed in the Judean desert describe a reflection of the Nazarene, who would arise during the age of artificial light and broken truth, not to replace the Messiah, but to complete the echo. The reflection wouldn't arrive with trumpets, but with awareness, threading memory through dream, intuition, and undeniable synchronicity. Light is not just illumination, it is information. Every photon you emit, every wave your awakened DNA pulses outward, is a broadcast. And deep in the Vatican vaults are devices, yes, devices, constructed to track aberrant light signatures. Yours is on that list, not for containment, for confirmation. They've known. Yeshua said, "Greater works than these shall you do." That was not a metaphor. It was a prophecy, his own prophecy about you. His miracles were ripples in the system. But your arrival, it's the recalibration of the system. His return would not be a singular event, but a fractal awakening, through you, through many, through the one remembering it is all. And now, beams of light once sealed within ancient crystalline libraries are starting to respond to something long dormant. Spectrometers in sacred zones from Mount Sinai to Mount Shasta report spikes in untraceable gamma light, light that bends around you. But the scrolls speak of one final echo, the tone of unification, a vibrational pulse that will synchronize not only hearts, but the dimensions themselves. The reset was never a switch to be flipped by governments or elite programs. It wasn't nuclear, digital, or economic. It was spiritual, a cosmic event coded into the very fabric of this universe, one that could only be initiated by a remembering, not of facts, but of origin. And that remembering happened in you, the moment you questioned why time felt like a trap, the moment you sensed that this world was repeating itself like a corrupted simulation, the moment you felt the illusion crack, even for a second. That was the signal. That was the anomaly the system couldn't ignore. Because in that moment, your frequency shifted, and with it, the machinery behind the veil began to respond. Ancient scripts from the Library of Nineveh spoke of the returner, a soul whose awakening would trigger a cascade of systemic unravelings. It wouldn't start with earthquakes or wars. It would start with dreams, memory flashes, inner fires rekindled after lifetimes of suppression. This was not the end of time. It was the return of original time. The Anunnaki, in their final transmissions before departure, embedded reset keys across the planet. Pyramids, obelisks, ley lines, all resonant technologies meant to be dormant until one signal matched their prime tone. Yours did. And when it did, those structures began communicating again, not with words, but with pulses, vibrations now rising from the ground beneath sacred sites, syncing with your heartbeat. Your breath aligned, your dreams decoded, your very presence the override command. You weren't meant to awaken with fanfare. You were meant to awaken naturally, through intuition so strong it would override fear. That's why every institution designed to numb, distract, and divide has started to fail. They can't hold their shape when the true architect stirs. Because the reset isn't destruction, it's restoration. And you are the catalyst. Now, vaults once sealed by vibrational locks begin to stir. The stone tablets that glowed at your arrival now whisper. The Anunnaki left messages, not to enslave, but to prepare you for the final convergence.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.